Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was banished from Konoha and rebuilt the Uzumaki clan, part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Sarutobi Hiruzen, the Sandaime Hokage of Konoha, had faced many challenges throughout his long life. He was no stranger to uncomfortable situations, not by a long shot, and the one he was currently in, while it didn't even come close to topping his list, could easily lead to a situation that would if he didn't handle it just right. What was this new challenge, you might ask? He was having a meeting with foreign delegates regarding terms of alliance between the two villages, with the bonds already existing between them having become incredibly strained. The future of both would be made or broken today, and he knew it very well. Do not mock our intelligence by playing dumb here, Sarutobi. We know there is at least one Uzumaki in this village. We may not be Konoha nin, but we have every right in the world to see this person, or these people if it's more than one Uzumaki, for ourselves. Do not make this more difficult than it needs to be. The leader of the group of foreign shinobi warned him. This person was a foreign liaison, a representative from one village to another on behalf of the village's leader, regardless of whether or not that leader was also a Kage. While they were in the other village, they were to be treated as if they were equals to the Kage themselves, even though they had no actual authority. I'm afraid you just proved yourself wrong. As you are not Konoha nin, and in fact are not even citizens of Konoha, you do not have no right force me to do anything that involves a citizen of my village. Sarutobi told this person and their advisors. No, but as Uzumaki we do have a right to freely interact with our kin. Or are you going to pretend that there are none in Konoha? What makes you so sure there are Uzumaki still alive in Konoha? Sarutobi asked. I won't confirm or deny it, but I do need to know what gives you reason to believe this. Simple. The person to the right of the main liaison answered. The Kyuubi attacked Konoha a few years ago. The fact that we're not standing in the ashes of its burnt ruins can only mean that it was successfully resealed and, considering the last two Jinchuriki were members of our clan, that means there has to be an Uzumaki around holding it. And there's no way you wouldn't know where such an Uzumaki is. Sarutobi closed his eyes for a moment. Alright. There's no way for me to argue that. Yes, there is an Uzumaki in Konoha. But they are a citizen of Konoha and are a part of Konoha. Therefore you have no jurisdiction over him. The person standing in the middle of the three ninja arched an eyebrow. You speak as if we came here solely for the purpose of taking this person away, whom I'm concluding is a boy by your use of the word, him. That threw off the seasoned ninja, but he was good at not showing it. Then why are you here? We came to check on the well-being of the Uzumaki remaining in Konoha, particularly the Jinchuriki. And we intend to offer our services to ensure his, or them if there are others, continued and if need be improved well-being. If we are satisfied in how things are here we will gladly allow your village to continue supporting our kin, but if we feel this village is endangering them, we will respond accordingly. Sarutobi raised an eyebrow. And that would entail. You don't want to know, old man. The person to the left of the head liaison answered. Looking at the three of them, Sarutobi knew that threat was far from hollow. The person standing in the middle of the three ambassadors was Uzumaki Kikyo, one of the strongest kunoichi to ever live, rivaled only by Hiruzen's own student, Tsunade. From what he had heard, she was an expert in many shinobi skills but was most proficient in long-range attacks and was the epitome of the term, marksman. She was capable of killing off her opponents before they even knew she was nearby, most often with a Yumi bow she sported. Sarutobi had only seen her do it once and even now he still couldn't figure how she was able to do it. But her accuracy and range could not be matched by anyone, known as one-shot Kikyo, because one shot was all she needed to take your life. Her marksmanship was so great she could effortlessly kill a person from 5 miles away with one shot of her bow. Simply put it, if Kikyo wanted you dead, it was only a matter of time until you died. Appearance-wise, Kikyo was a 24-year-old red-haired woman who always looked and carried herself like a professional. She was wearing the standard Uzumaki armor of her village, which looked mostly like a plaited apron for both front and back, with a red long-sleeve shirt underneath and dark blue pants, and a yumi bow and quiver on her back. Her eyes were azure and her hair was almost as red as lava, cut in a Heim style with a low ponytail behind her. At her hip was a sheathed dagger, though Sarutobi had no idea why she carried such a weapon given her talents. Standing to Kikyo's right was another girl, Uzumaki Mia. She was 19 years old with amber eyes and dull red hair tied at the end behind her shoulders with a gray Hittite across her forehead. She was an expert swordswoman and those that have seen her fight said she was so good they couldn't see her or her blade when she attacked even as she was cutting her opponents down. She had an inherent talent for spotting openings and finding the weak points of both weapons and people. People claimed it was downright impossible to fight her and not lose some blood from it. You'd have a better chance of successfully walking across burning coals than escaping a battle with Mia unscathed. To Kikyo's left was the one male of the group, Uzumaki Jun. He had blue eyes and vermilion shade of red hair, and he was the only person there Sarutobi was unfamiliar with. He wore an armored suit like the other two and carried a shakuho, as if trying to look like a monk. If that was his intention, however, it clearly wasn't working. Sarutobi has seen too many Uzumaki in his lifetime to believe one of them was incapable of kicking someone else's. I suppose I should tell you everything, seeing as how you're already on the verge of figuring it out yourselves. Sarutobi started. You are right about there being an Uzumaki in the village and about there being an Uzumaki Jinchuriki in the village. What you don't know, is there's only one Uzumaki in the village and one alone. Are you telling us that Kushina-sama is dead? Jun asked. Sarutobi sadly nodded. Yeah, that was a grave lose for us all. Oh man, Rei is not going to like this bit of news at all. Mia said to her colleagues, who nodded in agreement. Mia, go find Rei. Knowing him he's probably doing something incredibly stupid right now. Kikyo ordered. Mia nodded, then seemed to just disappear into thin air without using a shunshin. Kushina may be gone, but she died so her son would live. That is something to be respected. Sarutobi added. Her son? Kikyo asked, then smiled. Excellent. So appears there is a heir after all. Heir? You mean a clan heir? Sarutobi asked, wondering if they intended to pull leverage over him somehow. More than that, heir to all of Uzushio. Jun answered. Heir to an entire village. Sarutobi asked. How can that be? Hidden villages aren't run by monarchies. Yours isn't, ours is. Jun claimed. The way ours works is a bit different from normal monarchs. We have a leader who chooses an appropriate successor from direct family, and if no suitable candidates are available, more distant relatives are taken into consideration. So in that sense, we are a monarchy. But the ruling class must maintain their own training and missions as ninja just like everyone. They rule over warriors, and ninja trust their kage more than their daimyo, so our rulers must be kage more than anything else. But due to the troubles our village has faced in past decade or so, the ruling branch of the Uzumaki family has almost died off entirely. Kikyo interjected. If Kushina-sama has a living son, he is a legitimate heir to the kage throne. He must be taken to Uzushio. I'm afraid I cannot allow that. Sarutobi said, and saw both of them reach for their weapons. Would you care to hear why? Or would you rather just kill me? They stayed their hands. This better be good, old man. Jun said, just barely to avoid sounding threatening. Sarutobi folded his hands together. First, Kushina and her husband died to protect Konoha from the Kyubi. To take away their son, the Jinchuriki who to this day still continues to protect the village in their stead, you make their sacrifice meaningless. If that is not enough for you, consider this. The balance of power between the 5 major countries is always delicate. Taking away Konoha's Jinchuriki removes a vital asset from that balance and leaves the lives of everyone in jeopardy. Not only that, but, considering that you're trying to keep your reconstruction efforts secret to the rest of the villages, having a Jinchuriki appear right in the middle of your village would be like telling the world, including your enemies, that your village survived. Not to mention we that have a history of being able to provide for 2 Jinchuriki in the past, whereas your village to the best of my knowledge is currently having a hard enough time with the people you have at the moment. Giving you a Jinchuriki child would only complicate things for you. Besides, would your ninja accept a Jinchuriki as leader? Would yours? Kikyo asked. Sarutobi did not know what to say. In argumentative terms, that was definitely a perfect counter. I'd like to believe someday it will be possible, but I cannot say for certain it will come anytime soon. I'm no prophet, you know. Sometimes you don't need to be. Kikyo stated. Meanwhile, coming out of the Konoha cemetery was a man wearing a hooded black coat with a large spiral on the back and the hood up, as well as black gloves and shinobi sandals. He was the kind of guy that looked immediately suspicious to you, but all he had done was pay his respects to one of the deceased. I wish I had been there, Nei-san. Maybe I couldn't have changed anything, but at least I could have made an attempt. But at least I can do something for your son, once I find him. He looked left and right, wondering where to go. I already checked out the Uzumaki buildings, but they were all abandoned. Where would her son live if not there? The black coating wearing individual put more thought into it. I should try searching the village while putting my admittedly limited sensory skills to good use. Who knows? I've gotten good at controlling myself while using that power, so maybe I could try using it to augment my sensory abilities. If I'm lucky, it might help me find him. With that decided, he jumped to get atop a nearby telephone pole, giving him a decent view of the village. This should do. He though before closing his eyes and opening up his chakra senses. In sensing, high altitudes helped expand the search area, but the downside was it was harder to sense in focus. Same principle as normal eyes trying to see from a distance. Fortunately, the target he was looking for didn't need to be in focus. I'm not sure if that's him, but it's definitely the most obvious chakra signature in town. That's a start, he said before jumping from pole to get closer to the chakra source. As he got closer, he could tell more and more about the chakra signature. He could sense that it was similar to what his sister's chakra signature had felt like. But, at the same time, it was different. Like a mix of her chakra signature and someone else's, like you'd find in someone who was a child of theirs. As he got closer and closer and could better sense it, he became more and more sure that it was the person he was looking for. That wasn't the only thing he could sense. Once he got close enough, he could tell that the chakra signature was in an erratic flux. Not like when someone was using their chakra. No, this was far different. It felt panicked. Like the person was scared. No, not scared. Terrified would be a better way to put it. He could only run faster at sensing that. After a bit he had to leave the poles and take to the rooftops instead to get closer. Once he did, he saw someone else take to the rooftops too, someone dressed like a ninja and carrying what looked and sounded like a protesting child in their arms. And if that wasn't bad enough on its own, the chakra signature he had been pursuing seemed to be coming off the child. The black-coated man narrowed his eyes at the ninja's retreating form as he pursued him. On no you don't. He held out his right hand, and from his palm emerged a small flame that spiraled out and grew before pulling back and forming a spinning loop rotating around his wrist. He pulled back his arm and bit then thrusted it forward as if throwing something. With that, the fire ring left his arm and sailed through the area like a frisbee at the ninja taking a child. The fire ring smashed into the nin's waist, burning him badly while seeming to even cut into him upon impact. Said impact forced the ninja to collapse on the roof of a building, allowed the hood-covered man a chance to catch up. When he got there, the kid was already on his feet and trying to get away, but not sure how to get away. You okay, kid? He asked, but the boy wouldn't respond. Hey, you okay? The boy turned to look at him, and his expression was frightened. Like he expected this guy to do something to him. The black-coated man's eyes widened at the sight of the boy's face as he began to take in the appearance of the frightened boy he'd just saved. The child was no older than 6, 7 at the absolute oldest, and that was assuming he was short for his age. He had blonde spiked hair with blue eyes and a set of obvious whisker marks on his cheeks. His clothes were brightly colored but faded and dirty with some patches, like they were hand-me-downs or ones he had kept for a long time, unable to replace. But what got him most was the shape of the boy's face. It was the exact same shape that his sister's was when she was the boy's age. If he'd had any doubts that this was the kid he was looking for, they were erased when he saw this. The black-coated man decided that removing his hood might make him look less intimidating to the poor boy. So, with this in mind, he reached a hand up and began to pull down his hood. "It's all right, kid," he said when his face was visible. He had a normal facial shape with emerald eyes and spiked hair just as the boy did. Only his hair was a little longer and more of a rusted scarlet color with some orange streaks to it. "I'm not here to hurt you. Why was that guy taking you anyway?" The child was still shaking. "I don't know. One minute I was just out walking when this big smelly man started chasing me with glass in his hands. He kept tripping for some reason, so I thought I lost him in an alley, but he caught up. This masked guy showed up and saved me, but before I could even thank him he grabbed me and said he was taking me away." Sounds rough. And not at all like something that should have happened. But you're safe now. The name's Uzumaki Ray. Got it memorized. What's yours? The boy's eyes widened. You. Uzumaki. Yeah. Does it mean anything to you? Ray asked. The blonde boy slowly nodded. Yes, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. Why do you have my name? I assume the same reason you have my name. You're part of my clan. Clan? What's a clan? Naruto asked. Okay. Even kids half his age know what clans are when they're in clans. Clearly someone's withholding information from him, and if he doesn't know that, what does he know? Ray asked. Ray just sighed and looked down before mumbling something, then looked up at Naruto. Come on, kid, you and I have a lot to talk about. Why you are not taking that boy anywhere. Ray looked to the ninja he had taken down, and this guy was back on his feet, albeit shaking while he stood. He pressed a button on a black panel on his belt, which made Ray raise an eyebrow. Listen, buddy, there's nothing you can say to me to make me walk away from this boy. And if he is who I think he is, I won't have a problem killing you to make that happen. Got it? So do us both a favor and you be the one to walk away. The ninja, whom Ray noticed had an Anbu mask he did not recognize as being from the normal Anbu, shook his head. I cannot do that. My superior had ordered that this boy be brought to him, and failure is not an option. Ray signed and shook his head. Why do I always get stuck with the icky jobs? Ray raised his arms to his sides as a burst of flame appeared in each hand. The bursts of flame soon spiraled out and reformed themselves into large and oddly shaped chakrams with flames around the spiked edges. The ninja, caught off guard by this, could only bring himself to stare at the weapons that quite literally formed out of nothing but fire. Ray began spinning one of them as fast as he could before letting it fly toward the nin. Eat this, he said as he threw the first ring. The masked nin jumped and turned in the air to dodge the chakram that twisted itself in the air as well, like it was trying to reshape itself into another weapon. While the enemy was in the air and unable to react, Ray threw his second fire chakram. This one flew through the air vertically and hit the masked nin's abdomen, cutting right through it like a buzzsaw and cauterizing the wound perfectly. Both fire rings faded and the bisected nin collapsed, the top half on the roof and the bottom half over the edge. Someone from below screamed, not expecting a person's legs and to fall down by them like that. Ray stepped up to the downed ninja and leaned down to whisper. That's what you get for trying to hurt my nephew. He said it too quietly for Naruto to hear it. Suddenly a large cluster of kunai bearing exploding tags appeared out of nowhere, impaling themselves in the roof around the fallen nin but not hitting either him or Ray, as if they were supposed to miss. Not having time to think it over, Ray pulled back quickly and grabbed Naruto without a word, although the boy was clearly not fond of being taken again, then jumped to the next building just before it exploded. On the other rooftop he saw a group consisting of 6 ninja all wearing the same outfits and masks as the one he just killed, the only thing giving them any individuality appearance-wise being their own height and hair. And all of them looked ready to fight, as soon as he made a move. Well, this might actually pose a challenge for me, Ray said, setting Naruto down to free his hands. The young boy scurried away, but couldn't get too far without getting close to the others. Stay behind me, kid, he told the younger Uzumaki as he raised his arms to his sides again, his hands open and his palms facing outward, before reforming his flame chakrams. Why should I trust you? Naruto asked. It's either me or them, feel free to choose. The masked nin moved as one to ambush the 2 Uzumaki, forcing Naruto to decide by hiding behind Ray. The orange-streaked redhead held out his hands forward, turning his chakrams into a type of shield rather than weapon. He added a spiral of fire to them to give them more cover, so it looked like he was defending himself with his own clan symbol. The masked nin were surprised to see this. This man, whoever he was using jutsu and abilities unlike anything they had ever seen. In some ways, it reminded them of a red-haired woman that their leader had briefed them on. One who was supposedly connected to the blonde they were attempting to bring to him. They couldn't think of that right now, they had to continue their attack on him and get to the boy. Each drew out a katana and 4 of them moved to hit the flames directly while 2 others would move around them. Ray saw this coming, however. He threw his 2 flame chakrams like boomerangs, bisecting the 2 attackers coming at them from the side before they could even blink, and stomped 1 foot to the ground. When he did, a large ring of fire sprung up around him and Naruto protectively before he caught his flame chakrams. The 4 other ninja were spared the attack, but one of them managed to cut his coat and draw some blood. They couldn't add more because of the fire wall, so they pulled back. This won't protect you, one of them said before taking out a scroll and unsealing some stored water. Sweden. Water bullet volley. From the water on the roof sprang forth a lot of projectiles at high speed right at Ray. Ray just threw one of his flame chakrams at them and raised his hands as a wall of fire rose up from the ring of fire, blocking the water projectiles. The flames that the wall of fire was made of were so hot that the water projectiles turned to steam before they could get very far through it. Naruto looked at the older Uzumaki, in awe of the power the man was displaying. This guy, he's really strong. You're good, but you can't keep this fire up forever. One of the ninja reprimanded, holding up a paper tag with a seal on it. Ray narrowed his eyes, able to recognize that seal. It's a fire suppressor, a low-quality one by Uzushio terms but enough to buy them some time to get past my defense. The nin got ready to throw it, but before he did, he just dropped it. And the hand that was holding it. The other ninja were stunned by this surprise, then felt something cut them all and blood gush out. But for the life of them, none of them could see what was cutting them now. Ray smirked at seeing this. About time she showed up. If she'd taken any longer, there's a chance I would have had to start resorting to that. Tell me you didn't spur this on Ray. Again. The voice of Mia said to him, phasing out of invisibility among the downed masked men, holding her sword which was covered in dripping blood. Nope. Not my fault this happened, Mia. Besides, their friend was trying to hurt a fellow Uzumaki. If I had started it, wouldn't you want me to instead? Mia sighed. You have a point there. She then looked at the blonde boy hiding behind Ray as Ray dispersed his ring of fire and made his flame chakrams disappear. Is this him? Yes, and apparently something's going on here. Something that is completely uncalled for. Ray said. What do you mean? Naruto asked. Ray and Mia shared a look. Both knew that telling the boy would only confuse him, and at worst could plant seeds of outrage and disaster in his mind and future. They couldn't say anything in front of him, not yet anyway, but how to tell him this without losing any chance at getting his trust. Ray contemplated telling him that they knew his mother and were only able to come see him now. It wasn't a lie. It just wasn't the full truth. He opened his mouth to speak, but just as quickly as he did that, Mia came right up to the young boy and put her finger on his forehead. In no time Naruto collapsed and started snoring. Mia, Ray said, bothered. Not now. I know you want to tell him, but doing it without Kikyo-sama is a bad idea. Mia told him. Before you object, are you sure you want to risk offending one-shot Kikyo? Alright, I'll keep my mouth shut. But she will want to hear what I heard. Ray told her. Welcome back, Ray-san. Kikyo greeted formally when the two Uzumaki returned to the Hokage office. I trust you've gotten your little need for sightseeing out of your system. She arched an eyebrow at the sight of the child in Mia's arms. And what's this? Ray held a slightly dark look as he turned his gaze towards Kikyo. This is the Uzumaki we're looking for. And I have reason to believe that he's my nephew, since the last people in this village besides Kushina Ne-san that were known to have Uzumaki blood were Tsunade and Nawaki. And, as you know, Nawaki died at about the age of 12 and Tsunade never had any children. Kikyo didn't react, but she looked over the boy. Nothing about him looked like a trait from the Uzumaki clan, but his chakra, that was definitely of her clan. There could be no mistaking it. What have you done to the boy? Sarutobi asked. Ray gave the old man a dirty look. I could ask you and this whole village the same thing. Did you know he was being abducted when I first saw him? And before that, a man I'm guessing was drunk, at noon mind you, was trying to hurt him with broken glass. The Uzumaki in the room widened their eyes at these words, then turned to Sarutobi with their eyes narrowed. The old man felt like the air was getting thick with heavy ill intent. Sarutobi, care to explain why such an event would be occurring in your village? It didn't take a genius to figure out that Sarutobi was in hot water with the visiting Uzumaki. The people of Konoha don't take too kindly to the knowledge of this boy being the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi. Right now, you have an idea of how kindly they don't take it. Don't take it kindly, Ray repeated, offended by the phrasing meant to soften the news. This was attempted murder and attempted kidnapping. This is beyond not liking what he is, this is treating the child like he is the demon. That regrettably is how some see the boy. Fortunately, I've at least forbidden anyone from speaking of it so no one his age knows the truth. Sarutobi replied. Jun folded his arms. With all due respect, Hokage Dono, forbidding anyone from talking doesn't stop them from acting on those thoughts they can't speak of. Clearly this village is not a safe place for the child. Kikyo stated. Sarutobi sighed. As much as I hate to admit it, you're right. But there are a few who look past the hatred of others and see him for who he really is. Like the Hyuga heiress, for example. Mia tapped her foot on the floor. You expect us to leave him here, knowing this, just because a little girl has a crush on him? No, I'd be foolish and undeserving of my job if that was my one argument to the case. Look, the truth of the matter is when Kushina was giving birth, the seal on her failed and someone whose identity we've yet to learn took control of the escaping Kyuubi. Namikaze Minato, the Yondaime Hokage, husband to Kushina and father to Naruto there, was able to reseal the fox inside his son, but both parents died in the process. They died believing that Naruto could protect the village better than they ever could. To take him away from Konoha before he even has a chance to be a ninja would be spitting on their sacrifice. Ray clenched his fist at this. I get that, but isn't letting him live in these conditions with people trying to kill him spitting on their sacrifice even more so than taking him away from here should be, a place that one of his parents once called home. There is only so much I can do to keep him safe. Sarutobi explained. Obviously you're not doing enough. Naruto revealed to me he doesn't even know what a clan is. Tell me, how can a clan heir and the one Uzumaki in this village not know something that basic if you were doing everything possible to honor my sister? You're the Hokage, so couldn't you just tell him about his heritage yourself? Ray asked. Sarutobi sighed. It's not as easy as you think. I can't teach him anything ninja related myself without drawing more attention to us both, but I have told him to always listen in class once he starts the academy. Not only that, but while I was focusing on making sure we recovered from the Kyuubi attack, the civilian council got their hooks into the academy and changed the curriculum around a bit. One thing they've done was cut learning about the Uzumaki from the program in order to try and save face with the other nations by making us seem unassociated with your clan. I myself didn't find out until recently and intend to rectify this situation as soon as possible. You let the civilians decide what should and shouldn't be taught to ninja. Kikyo repeated, making a look of disappointment and bewilderment. It was an expression shared by the rest of her clansmen at the moment. Sarutobi shook his head. No, it's more like they forged my signature and put in an order for it to be changed to their liking. And you let them stay in power? Jun asked, starting to get angry. No, of course not. I had them sentenced to life without possibility for parole on grounds of usurping and defrauding the Hokage. I have the current council fixing the problem now. Like I said, the problem was only recently discovered. So to fix a problem created by civilians, you're entrusting new civilians to fix it simply because they're new? Ray asked. I'm awaiting the report of the new curriculum as we speak. And to make sure it's genuine and not a mere diversion, I will check it myself when the semester starts. I can understand that, but we still have reason to believe Naruto here is better off in our village. Especially if the people who wish harm on him will find ways to use their children to make it happen for them. Kikyo claimed. Sarutobi nodded sadly, knowing that they had a point. Is there any way we can find some sort of compromise that would allow us to fully honor Minato and Kushina's wishes as well as do what's best for Naruto-kun? Ray thought it over for a second before a grin, not unlike one that would be seen on Naruto's face when he was planning something big, stretched across his face. I think I've got an idea. Hiruzen visibly cringed when Ray said those words. I'm going to regret this, aren't I? Current time. A young boy tried to open his eyes but found that the light was too painful for him at the moment and was forced him to close them again. What happened? He asked himself, before he managed to answer his own question. Oh right, the Tem tried to leave and I had to kick his to get him to come back. Did a good job of kicking my in return, I'll give him that. But then, how did I get back here? Wait, I am in Konoha, right? He asked himself as he struggled to open his eyes, and tried to figure out what was going on. The boy was none other than Uzumaki Naruto, genin of Konohagakure and Hokage hopeful, who was recovering from his latest mission. As the young Konoha nin couldn't even open his eyes immediately and was now covered in bandages that wrapped everywhere other than his hair, mouth, nose, and eyes like a mummy, it was clear that this mission had nearly killed the normally loud blonde. Naruto opened his eyes, fighting the pain he felt in doing so, and lifted his hand above said eyes. See, he could dim the light. He could make out a room with white walls and an open window, as well as a regular beeping noise. Yep, I'm in a hospital, so that's a somewhat good sign. A knock was heard at the door. Naruto by reflex tried to say, "Come in," but his mouth was sore at the moment. The best he could verbalize was, "Awin." Taking that as a sing, the door opened and Naruto saw a familiar face, putting his mind at rest regarding where he was. Yo, Naruto. I'm glad to see you didn't die on my watch. You look like hell, though. Did Sasuke really do all that to you? Shikamaru asked. Zosh. He started, then sighed and coughed. Otter. He mimed drinking from a glass to get his point across. Shikamaru sighed. Hold on, I'll go get some. Before Naruto could point out there was a sink nearby, Shikamaru had already left the room. Damn, Guy's too lazy to listen to a guy who can barely speak. Naruto groaned before laying back down. But he did a good job leading this mission. He added, then grimaced. This mission? Why did it have to happen in the first place? What the hell was Sasuke thinking leaving Konoha? The guy's never wanted anything except killing his brother or having his family back, so I know he wants to get stronger. But why couldn't he just train to do that here? What could Orochimaru give him that Konoha couldn't? And what would have made it worth so much to Sasuke that he'd risk letting Orochimaru take over his body just to get whatever that snake was offering him? Naruto thought to himself as the blonde, going against his usual rash self, tried thinking to himself about what could have happened. For the life of him, Naruto couldn't understand what Sasuke had been thinking. So he tried going over what he did know. Sasuke had lost his entire family in one night to his brother and swore vengeance on said brother, which is why Sasuke trained himself to be better than 100% to get his revenge. He had been approached by Orochimaru in the Forest of Death during the Chunin exams, and was obviously approached by Orochimaru at least a couple of times after that encounter, both directly and indirectly, with the snake giving him an offer to come to him in exchange for more power. He had failed to kill Itachi the first time he actually saw his older brother. And then he had decided to take up Orochimaru's offer and abandon Konoha and his team, and suffer the legal ramifications of said decision. Naruto had encountered Itachi only once, and truth be told he could understand why Sasuke was so afraid of the guy that he'd make it a point to see him dead. Even if you ignored the fact that Uchiha Itachi was strong enough to kill his entire clan in one night, the guy had a way of making his opponent feel powerless. In fact, that might have been a big part of how he was able to kill so many in one night to begin with. But of course Naruto was still young and inexperienced by comparison, so that had to be considered. Anyway, Itachi was able to attack the mind, the body, the heart, even the spirit of his prey. He didn't just kill his opponents, he destroyed everything that defined them, though whether this was Itachi's intention was something that, for some reason, Naruto was unsure of. Naruto had no idea what the full extent of Itachi's powers were. In fact, he doubted even Sasuke knew. Quite possibly the only person who had an accurate idea was Jiraiya of the Sannin, the one person that Itachi appeared to either acknowledge as being far more powerful than Itachi himself or was outright afraid of. Why didn't Sasuke just ask Ero Sennin to train him? His brother said Ero Sennin was stronger than him. Couldn't Sasuke at least have tried to ask the pervert for some help before going to Orochimaru? What made him think that freak knows anything about Itachi? Naruto asked himself. Either Orochimaru knows something about Itachi that he told Sasuke when I wasn't around to hear it, or the freak is controlling him somehow. Those are the only explanations that makes any sense. The door opened and Shikamaru came back with a glass of water, but he had company this time. Next to him was Hinata, who looked nervous but not surprised by how bandaged Naruto was, much to the blonde Genin's own surprise. Here you go, Shikamaru said, offering the glass. Naruto eagerly took it and guzzled it down. He coughed a bit when he stopped, but his throat felt better. Thanks Shikamaru. Hey, looks like I can talk again. Naruto-kun, what happened to you? Hinata asked. Naruto sighed before he answered. I guess Sasuke didn't want to play nice. He said, then touched the spot where a Chidori had gone right through him. The fight got so out of control that he probably didn't even know what he was doing and tried to kill me. He nearly succeeded a couple of times, too. Shikamaru's eyes marginally widened to hear this, and Hinata looked like she was going to faint from the shock. But enough about me. What about the others in our team? What happened to Kiba, Choji, and Neji? And what of Sasuke? Did I manage to stop him or did he? Naruto asked before stopping, not wanting to even think of the alternative to that last question. It's a long story, Naruto. Shikamaru started, clearly uncomfortable with the current line of questioning. I'm not going anywhere, Naruto reminded the lazy boy. Shikamaru sighed. Fine, if you're going to make me say it, Choji and Neji are in critical care right now. Of all our fights, those two clearly got the worst of it. That said, there's no reason to believe that they're in danger of dying according to the medics. Tsunade-sama is a real drag to deal with sometimes, but I gotta hand it to her, she really pulled through with her medical expertise. If she hadn't, I'd be giving you the dates for Choji and Neji's funerals right now. As for the rest of us, Kiba and Akamaru are a little less injured than you are and are doing fine now. All I got out of this mission was a broken finger. He held up his hand to show this. Also, Lee and some allies from Suna, Gaara and his two siblings, came along to help, and all of them seemed to be in good shape. As for Sasuke, he was brought back by your sensei, who brought you back at the same time. He's being treated, but not allowed visitors for the time. Bet Ino's finding that out right now. I bet Sakura-chan's finding it out too. Naruto noted, a bit bothered but not the least bit surprised that his pink-haired teammate would check up on Sasuke before him even if it wasn't allowed. But he tried to ignore that, he was simply relieved that Sasuke was in Konoha right now. Anyways, the important thing is we all got out of it alive and we were successful in our mission. That's something to be thankful for. Shikamaru added. By the way, you should know that you've been unconscious for 3 days. If Naruto was still drinking water, he would have done a spit take at that news. 3 days? Yep. I've been coming by each day to check on you and the others. Same with Hinata, though unlike me she always went to see you first. Shikamaru pointed out, gesturing to the white-eyed girl with a quick tilt of his head for a moment. Hinata's face darkened. I wanted. She poked her fingers together, unsure what to say and unable to look anyone in the eyes. Thanks you guys. Has anyone else been by? Naruto asked. No idea. If they have, then it wasn't when I was around. Shikamaru answered, then saw Hinata was still fumbling with herself. Well, I've got nothing left to say, so I'll get going and check on Kiba. Though I imagine Hinata might want to stick around a little longer. Again, without bothering to give anyone a chance to say otherwise, he left the room. Naruto looked to Hinata, who wasn't speaking anymore or looking at him. To him, she looked like she wanted desperately to be somewhere else but couldn't leave without being rude. Hinata, if you want to go you can. I won't stop you, he gently told her, giving her the out he thought she wanted. Hinata looked at him now. I want to stay, she blurted out, then caught herself. I mean, if you'll allow it. Sure, why wouldn't I? He replied. Get comfortable though, you look like you're anything but that. Hinata sat down in a chair by his bed put there for visitors. Was there anything you wanted to say to me, Hinata? The white-eyed girl tensed for a moment. There were many things she wanted to say, but she didn't know where to start, let alone if she even could make herself say any to begin with. Naruto-kun, what happened to you out there? I heard you were nearly killed. Huh, who told you that? Naruto asked. Your sensei. He said Sasuke-san tried to kill you with an assassination jutsu. And you yourself just said that he probably tried to kill you and that he nearly succeeded. She said, small tears forming in the corners of her eyes at these words. Oh, well, Sasuke did come at me with the Chidori, but, surely he wasn't really trying to kill me, or at least he wasn't doing it willingly. It had to be the seal that Orochimaru messing with his mind or something. Naruto countered. Hinata shook his head. Naruto-kun, your own teammate nearly destroyed your heart and probably demolished your lung and half your ribs. How can you possibly defend him? Because it had to be Orochimaru controlling him. It's not his fault. It can't be. Naruto said. Naruto-kun, I know about seals controlling people. Remember what Neji ni-san told you about my clan? Hinata asked. The caged bird seal doesn't control how the bearer thinks. It can be used to discourage certain lines of thought, but not automatically. For it to do anything, someone who knows how to use it has to enact it, and be in proximity to it. So for a seal to affect Sasuke-san, Orochimaru would have to actually be nearby and use it. And if that was the case, why would he let Kakashi-sensei to bring you both back? Well, he wasn't thinking right. I mean, he did get hit by a genjutsu from someone recently. Naruto pointed out, making sure to not completely point out that it was Itachi, as that was another can of worms. That could have affected him. When was he hit? Hinata asked. Naruto thought it over. During the mission where Ero Sennin and I brought back Ba-chan. He noted the Hyuga heiress's confused expression at his choice of phrasing. Our new Hokage. Hinata arched an eyebrow. Naruto-kun, my sensei is a genjutsu expert and she went to see if that was the case. If it was, she would have said so, but she didn't. And believe me, there are few genjutsus, if any, that can affect a Sharingan user for that long. If he had been hit with one then, a few weeks ago, any effect of it would have worn off by now. Long-term genjutsus are almost impossible to cast on the Uchiha. What are you saying, Hinata? That Sasuke actually wanted me dead. He may be a jerk, but that's too much even for him to pull. Then why did he use an assassination jutsu on you? She asked. I don't know, but it couldn't have been to kill me. He insisted. Why do you believe that, Naruto-kun? What am I supposed to believe, Hinata? That Sasuke, my own teammate, was actually trying to kill me of his own free will. That he was actually choosing to end our friendship. I can't believe that, he said, then added to himself quietly. I don't want to believe that. Hinata caught that and leaned to him, taking a hold of his hand despite her blush from doing so. Naruto-kun, I know this is unpleasant, but something isn't true simply because you want it to be. I know this hurts you, but you should consider the possibility that Sasuke-san really did intend to kill you. Naruto withdrew his hand, hurting her a bit at his small rejection of her. Even if you're right, it doesn't matter. He's still here, so I can change him so that this doesn't happen again. Why does it matter to you, anyways? Why does it matter if Sasuke tried to kill me or not? Hinata tried to withdraw into herself, hesitating to answer, but Naruto wouldn't have any of that. If you have a reason to care, then at least be brave enough to tell me why you care. I don't want. She stuttered quickly. Can you please speak up, Hinata? He asked, a bit bothered by her quietness here. After a brief moment, Hinata, in a display that was completely unlike her, snapped. I don't want you to die, Naruto-kun. I care about you too much to see you get killed. If you were to die, I don't know what I would do with myself. She shouted, forcing herself to be louder but losing control over her own volume when she forced it. Naruto looked at her and was stunned silent. He wondered who was the girl standing before him and what had happened to the quiet girl that was the Hinata he knew. Hinata blushed even more after that outburst and looked out the window to avoid making a further fool of herself. Hinata, he gently called to her, but she didn't respond. Hinata, what did you mean by that? She was lightly shaking a bit. Naruto-kun, you almost died on that mission. Do you even understand what that even means? Yeah, that kinda comes with the job, Hinata. He remarked. This was different. You almost died, all because you tried to bring back someone who you thought wasn't going to try to kill you. Did you think Neji Ni-san wasn't trying to kill you in the Chunin exams? Did you think he wasn't trying to kill me? No, I did see that. He told her. Now Hinata looked at him, tears starting to fall from her eyes slowly. You tell me you don't believe Sasuke-san was trying to kill you, and you say the main reason you believe this is mostly because you don't want to believe the alternative. What if he was trying? What if he tries again? Are you going to leave yourself open because you want to believe he's just playing around? But, no, Naruto-kun, no buts. Remember how mad you got when Neji Ni-san almost killed me? She asked, and he nodded. The thought that Sasuke-san tried that to you is making me just as mad, and hearing you defend him hurts me as much as you would be hurt if I had defended Neji Ni-san to you right after it happened. Naruto was taken aback by this as Hinata did have a point. Neji's attempt to murder Hinata during the Chunin exams was one of the few times in his life where Naruto admitted he was genuinely pissed at someone. Everything Neji had done or said was so wrong and offensive that it was impossible not to get mad at if you were a decent person. But he never thought someone would feel the same way towards someone if he had been in Hinata's place in that situation. Most of the time, he believed that most people wouldn't really care enough to do anything about his death. Some would cry, but none would swear to get back at his killer like he swore to get back at Neji. But was he wrong? Would people actually be so pissed at someone for killing him that they would get back at him? And, in this case, would Hinata really be one of them? Naruto-kun, the fact is Sasuke-san tried to kill you. Whether he was influenced or not doesn't matter to me, no more than whether or not Neji-ni-san was influenced mattered to you. He tried to kill you. Kill you. It makes me so mad right now I just want to go to him and hit him with everything I've got, like you did with Neji-ni-san. When you defend him, it's like you're saying you were supposed to die. Hinata, he quietly said, stunned that this shy quiet girl could not only desire the pain of another, but would do so if it meant avenging him of all people. Naruto-kun, if he tried it once, he could try it again. Please, I know you don't want to, but don't let your guard down. Don't pretend Sasuke-san was just playing around. If he tries it again, if he succeeds in killing you. She stopped and found it hard to talk, as if choking on her brewing sobs. What will you do? He asked. On a roll, Hinata got closer to him and looked him right in the eye. I'd kill him, then kill myself. I can't live in a world without you, Naruto-kun. If I outlive you, Naruto-kun, I have nothing to live for. You have no idea how much you mean to me, Naruto-kun. Then why don't you tell me? He asked to test her. Blushing, but not as much as she usually does, Hinata felt that she had crossed a point of no return and that she had to tell him. And to be perfectly honest, she didn't think she wanted to return. What if Naruto didn't survive his next mission? What if she didn't? She didn't want to outlive him, but she didn't want to regret not taking this opportunity either. Hinata took a deep breath and mustered what little courage she had at that moment before she finally said one four-word sentence that, to everyone who had noted the Hyuga era's feelings, was a long time coming. Naruto-kun, I love you. Hinata confessed, then actually felt herself get lighter for saying it. It was as if, with that one sentence, the chains around Hinata's confidence had just shattered and the weight of her self-doubt had suddenly lifted off her shoulders. I love you. You don't have to say you love me now. I won't be upset if you don't love me yet or even if you never do. But I want you to know how I feel and I want to be by your side, whatever that may turn out to be. Can you at least give me a chance before you decide what you want to do? Naruto didn't know what to say and, to be honest, no one would have been able to blame him. A girl he had always thought of as a wallflower, a girl he thought of as just a little weird, had just confessed that she loved him, turning into almost a different person just to say those words. None of the things he knew, and none of the things he had been through in his life, could have prepared him for this. And if that wasn't strange enough, she was okay with him not returning the sentiment for the rest of their lives as long as he at least made an effort to learn about her before deciding what he wanted and thought about her. As of that moment, Naruto had a better chance of finishing the test of the first round of the Chunin exams and getting all of the questions right than knowing what to say to Hinata after this bombshell. All of a sudden there was another knock at the door, forcing the two to break eye contact, and allowing Naruto to actually begin to attempt to comprehend what Hinata had just told him, and look at who was now here. The door opened and in walked Kurenai. Hi you two. How are things? We're good, Kurenai-sensei. Hinata greeted. Yeah, we are. Naruto made himself say. What brings you here? Oh, nothing. I was just checking up on Kiba and Shikamaru told me Hinata was here, so I thought I'd see what was going on with you two. Nothing's going on, Naruto said, a bit too defensively. Kurenai arched an eyebrow at his way of saying it, and noted Hinata looked like she was hiding something. I guess she must have finally told him. Well, even if she did, it's between the two of them and not something I should get involved in. Since it looks like the boy wouldn't know what to do with her even if given an instruction manual. That said, that was something that Hinata needed to say and something Naruto had to learn, so it's definitely for the best for both of them, especially if those rumors I've heard recently are true. The Genjutsu master thought to herself before turning her attention to her student. Then come with me, Hinata. It's time for our team's lesson, or yours and Shino's, seeing as how Kiba won't be going anywhere for now. Unless you'd rather spend more time with Naruto here. This was one of the hardest decisions in Hinata's life. She didn't want to disobey her sensei, but leaving Naruto so soon after pouring out her heart would devalue her effort. Yet if she stayed, how would she explain it to Kurenai without making her suspicious or maybe even upset? And if she stayed, that would amount to putting Naruto on the spot and making him feel like he had to give her an answer to something he didn't even know how to think about right now, much less what he would think of this revelation. Sensing her internal conflict, Naruto decided he needed to help her in some way. It's okay, Hinata. You told me you want to get stronger too, and this is part of it. Besides, it's not like you won't have any time to come back if you want to write. Hinata wasn't sure what to say, but she nodded. She knew he needed time to process the big revelation she had just given him, and she didn't want to come across as needy or fangirlish by making him feel like he had to respond on her terms. Alright, I'll be back later today, Naruto-kun. Hinata was led out of the room, giving the whiskered blonde one last hopeful glance before departing. However, Kurenai didn't leave when her student did. Naruto, I know that we've never really talked before, but there's something I wanted to tell you. She sighed for a brief moment. I know that it must have been hard having to treat your own teammate like a dangerous criminal, especially one who tried to kill you, but you still did the right thing, given what would have happened to your teammates if you had done nothing. Most bad things happen not because people are bad, but because good people don't know what the right thing to do is and make mistakes or do nothing at all. But here you did do the right thing, even if you may think you didn't. Kurenai-sensei, how do you know what the right thing is? He asked, and secretly he wasn't just asking about the mission. He was asking in terms of knowing what to do about Hinata. While she didn't say it explicitly, Kurenai clearly understood the other, more hidden, meaning behind that question. Most of the time you don't. The problem with doing the right thing is that it's easier to know what that is when you're not the one that has to do it. When you do have to do it, people tend to overthink it or can't choose between morals or personal gain. I believe that the best way to know what the right thing to do is to ask yourself what would you think is right if you weren't involved. If it had been someone else who had to bring back the Uchiha, what would you have told them to do that would have been any different than what you did do? Naruto didn't know what to say, but her point did make sense to him. I don't think it would have been different. That's the idea. Anytime you feel you don't know what the right thing to do is, just ask yourself what would you say if it was someone else's choice, then take your own advice. With that, the older Kunoichi left the room, and Naruto was still as confused as he was when this had started. But he felt like knowing what to do would come easier to him now. Council Chambers, Konoha. Meanwhile, as Naruto was dealing with the possible reality regarding Sasuke and the bombshell of Hinata's confession, another conversation was about to begin. This conversation, unbeknownst to the young Jinchuriki, was to be the first in a quickly succession of events would drastically change his life forever and was being held in the chambers of the ruling body of Konoha. Gathered in these chambers, which was one of the most secure rooms in all of Konoha, was the collective governing body of the village. This collective body consisted of 4 major components. First there was the Hokage, the true ruler of Konoha and everyone in it. The Hokage had more power than anyone and was the only actual authority over things that affected the overall village. In essence, the other three bodies existed to ensure that the Hokage either did not abuse this power, use it uninformed, or was left in a position where they couldn't use it. Currently, this position was held by the Godime Hokage, a woman named Tsunade, a descendant of both the Senju and Uzumaki clans who, alongside both Jiraiya and Orochimaru, was part of a legendary trio of shinobi known as the Sannin. Then there were the Elder Advisors, the smallest and probably least important body there was. The position was given mainly as a way to honor the few shinobi that were able to reach old age, who were respected for their achievement, and because their experience was invaluable in many situations. In other situations, however, the advice of the elders was dated and obsolete in the mostly youth-oriented ninja world. The times were always changing, as well as the people and things within said times, so they were rarely the first group approached for viewpoints. Currently this position was held by Mitokata Homura and Udatane Kaharu, the teammates of the late Sarutobi Hiruzen. Next up, there was the Shinobi Council, which consisted of the heads of the clans of Konoha, the director of the Anbu division, and a couple of other high-ranking members within the ranks Konoha Shinobi. Their job was to both oversee the clans, the Anbu Black Ops division, and the rest of the Konoha nins to ensure there were no issues within their ranks that could pose a possible threat to the village, and ensure that the laws of Konoha were upheld. Some notable members were Hyuga Hiyashi, Nara Shikaku, and Shimura Danzo, who was currently filling in for the Uchiha despite not being a member of the clan himself, never mind the fact that there wasn't an Uchiha clan to begin, as there was only one, very problematic Uchiha left in Konoha. And finally there was the Civilian Council, the one group that had the least power in the village among the three representative bodies of the council, barely a step above the elder advisors in terms of actual power. Konoha was a village that both housed and was the center of the host country's military, like the other hidden villages, with the host country being the land of fire in this case, and was sort of like a gigantic barracks, and that's the central role. Despite this, however, Konoha was still a village and had all the responsibilities and concerns of one insofar as the civilians, who provided many important or desirable services for the shinobi and others, were concerned. As the shinobi were often too busy dealing with missions and legal issues to oversee the overall maintenance of the village itself, it was the job of the Civilian Council to keep an eye on the well-being of Konoha's utilities and the non-ninja economics. Tsunade, seated in the Hokage chair of the room, looked around the room before calling the meeting to order. Everyone, now that the members of the Sasuke retrieval team are now in stable condition, meaning that I have some time to be away from the hospital, I feel it is time to inform you on what has recently happened. As you all know, Uchiha Sasuke defected the village to join Orochimaru and his village, Odogakure. The team sent out to bring him back before he could reach Odogakure was successful, with Sasuke being detained for the time being. 4 of the 5 members of the team we sent were seriously injured, with 2 of those members being in critical condition, but they're all out of harm's way and they will all make a full recovery, though it may take some time for a couple of them. That's good to hear, Akamichi Shuza said. The Akamichi clan head was one of the first to hear about his son Choji's predicament, the young member of Team 10 being one of the 2 team members that was in critical condition after the mission. Right now Sasuke is also undergoing treatment in the prison wing of the hospital, having been injured after he forced one of the members of the team to use force to stop his attempt to defect. I have granted visitation right to the members of his team, but only if they follow proper channels first. The others involved in the mission have not been placed under any restrictions beyond that the hospital itself places on its patients. For the time being, however, I must insist that you avoid making unauthorized visits to Uzumaki Naruto until he's released. May we ask why? Hiyashi asked. I mean, it's not I'm saying that any of us here were planning to visit the boy, but that's a bit uncalled for. This is mostly a safety precaution, and something for you to tell those under your care on my behalf. The reason for this is that Naruto took on a lot of injuries in his effort to subdue Sasuke. Precautions must be made to ensure that the seal has not been damaged from Sasuke's actions. Are we in danger of the fox being released? A concerned civilian asked. When Sarutobi was put back into power, a couple of civilian council members took the opportunity to try and seize more power in the village and to unleash more torment upon a young Naruto whose life they had already made a lonely hell. They had attempted to destroy certain information from the village archives, attempted to change the academy curriculum to be more civilian-friendly, and of course some of the civilians attempted to spur on propaganda against Naruto when he was helpless despite the fourth Hokage's wishes. Thankfully Sarutobi and the ninja, with the higher-ups not having the blind hatred towards Naruto that the civilians and some of those within their ranks had, though some clan heads were annoyed by Naruto's pranks whenever he happened to be directed those pranks towards their clan, had been able to catch these civilians before they could achieve their goals and make an example of them. The civilians now knew better than to push their luck in the presence of people trained to fight others and who pushed their luck all the time and were able to do it better than the civilians ever could. But this didn't necessarily mean they liked Naruto. No, they were just better at holding their tongues regarding the subject of him. Tsunade sighed before answering the civilian's question. If that were the issue, I think the Kyuubi would have broken out by now. Tsunade told them. This is more a precaution so an actual seal expert can make that call for us and determine any effects it could have on Naruto himself. Also, this brings me to something that I'm hesitant to present, but must do. This got everyone's attention. Tsunade wasn't the kind of person to hesitate in speaking her mind. Whenever the slug Sanin was uneasy about something she was about to discuss, as she apparently was in this case, that was an ominous sign of whatever was to come next. Rest assured that we're not in any danger, but this something that does concern everyone both in this room and in the village. Several years ago my predecessor and sensei, the Sandaime Hokage, made a deal with an old ally of our village. Now that ally has come to collect what we owe them, so to speak. Tsunade started. It's a bit difficult for me to explain this on my own, so I'll let the people in question explain why they're here on their own behalf. The door opened and in walked 4 people. They were none other than the same 4 Uzumaki who met with Sarutobi 7 years ago, looking completely unchanged by the time that had passed since that first meeting, led by the feared one-shot Kikyo just like they were back then. The 4 were acting professionally, but it was clear to the member of the council that we're not here for friendly chit-chat. Everyone, I present to your representatives of our allied village, Uzushiogakure. And, to be more specific, the representatives of the Uzumaki clan as well. Tsunade told everyone. Wait, Uzumaki clan? Inuzuka Sume asked. I thought they were all wiped out. Indeed. And I thought the same for the entirety of Uzushio. Aburame Shibi added. If this was not the case, then why were we misinformed? Because we wanted everyone to believe we were destroyed beyond those who needed to know otherwise. And since we're ninja, we acted accordingly. Tell me, Aburame, what is a ninja's greatest tool? Kikyo asked, clearly recognizing the attire of the clan of insect handlers. Deception. But to be fair, if you are our allies, why would you deceive the rest us and not the Hokage? Shibi replied. Gotta admit he's right. Yamanaka Inoichi added. While being deceptive is a good thing for a ninja, no decent person is intentionally deceptive to an ally. If you are our allies, you wouldn't have deceived us either. Yet you have. Kikyo stated coldly. That's quite an accusation. Sume stated with apprehension. Can you back it up? Yes, we can. That is the whole point of this visit. Mia stated. How are you even able to visit? Not to be rude, but how have you been able to survive all this time without us knowing? Hiyashi asked as the Hyuga clan head, while not wanting to offend the envoy, was clearly bewildered by such an affront by the Uzumaki. Hiyashi suddenly realized something as he turned to look at Tsunade. For that matter, how long have you known about them, Hokage-sama? I only learned a couple days ago, right after I had sent out the team to retrieve Sasuke. They wished to not speak until they knew Naruto was back and out of harm's way. As he has now regained consciousness and is recovering in the hospital without anything significant developments for now, that will have to suffice since this could not be delayed much longer. Tsunade answered before turning to Kikyo. Now, let them tell their part. Kikyo nodded in a show of appreciation before she continued speaking. Thank you Hokage-sama. Council of Konoha, I believe introductions are in order. I am Uzumaki Kikyo, head of the envoy from Uzushio and acting head of the Uzumaki clan. The people standing beside me are Uzumaki Miya, Uzumaki Jun, and Uzumaki Rei. 7 years ago we had a meeting with your previous Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, regarding the well-being of the sole member of our clan in this village, Uzumaki Naruto, and we told him that we'd return when a new Hokage was put into power to reevaluate his situation. So here we are. Upon the mention of Naruto, several of the civilian council members been talking amongst themselves, shocked by this revelation. Wait, you mean to say that Naruto actually is a member of a clan? One of the civilians asked. I was told he was given that name in honor of your clan, but there was no blood connection. Indeed, and no offense to you or your companions, Kikyo Dono, but from what I can see none of you even look like the boy. Another civilian pointed out. That's because he took after his father Minato in terms of appearance, though the shape of his face is definitely that of his mother's. Honestly, I'm surprised more people don't notice the resemblance given that a giant bust of his father's face is carved into that mountain standing above your village. Rei commented. Most of the civilians didn't hear Rei's comment beyond the mention of that name, fully aware that Rei was referring to Namikaze Minato, the Yondaime Hokage. It didn't take long for them to put two and two together and realize that Rei was saying that Naruto, rather than being the human form of the Kyuubi, as some of the civilians had once believed up until Naruto's successful defense against over a rampaging Ikibi during the Oto Suna invasion, was the only child of the revered Hokage. Most of the civilians, too stunned to even respond, turned to look questioningly at Tsunade, who nodded in confirmation to Rei's claim. As the realization sunk in, for most of the civilians, that they had been making the life of Minato's own son a living hell for over a decade, the shinobi, who were already aware of the truth, and those civilians who were able to snap out of their shock continued questioning the Uzumaki, Uzushio envoy. While I will confirm Rei Dono's claim, how is it that you know the identities of his parents? Nara Shikaku asked. Are we not entitled to know the parents of our own kin? Kikyo asked in a challenging manner. How did you find out? Shibi asked. His mother is my sister. Rei pointed out. Did you really think she wouldn't tell us that she was with child? To be frank, we didn't think she had any family outside of Konoha back then, much less now. Inoichi responded. So where were you all this time if not here? If Naruto is of your clan, I would have imagined that you would want to see him more frequently. When Uzushio was attacked and overpowered, we left our enemies unaware of the fact that we were warned of the impending attack beforehand and that most of the people of Uzushio, our clan included, had already evacuated to secret, panic centers, that we built throughout the Land of Fire and the many small islands surrounding the Land of Whirlpools. We stayed in those bunkers until the heat had died down, then went back to Uzushio, or what was left of it by then. Coming to Konoha would have been too obvious and would have destroyed any chance we had to rebuild our village, Kikyo explained. So you were playing dead, so to speak? A civilian asked. Yes, we were. And we've been rebuilding our village since that time. We had to do it in secret, however, so that the people who attacked us would not know of it lest they try to finish what they had started. Jun added. Kikyo cleared her throat. Anyway, that is not the issue. The issue is we did entrust some of the members of our clan, of whom only Naruto is left alive, to this village, and, now that we've evaluated his current conditions, we are no longer satisfied with letting Konoha have Naruto, who is also the last living member of our clan's ruling family, under its jurisdiction. We now intend to bring him to Uzushio, as we should have done years ago. You can't do that, several voices said all at once. Why not? Why should Konoha be allowed to keep him? Why should we not have Naruto come to his rightful home? Kikyo challenged. She's right. Besides, from what I've seen from the people in this village, especially among you civilians, it looks and sounds like you guys want him to go away. Now you have that opportunity to get him out of your sight and you're refusing to let him go. Ray proclaimed. You do realize that Naruto is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, correct? That alone is all the reason we need to keep him here. Danzo stated. All four Uzumaki gave him dark looks. If him being a Jinchuriki meant anything to this village, he would be stronger. Not what he is now. What do you mean? Ray handed Kikyo some papers. For starters, it says here that Naruto failed the academy graduation test 3 times, which is in this village the legal maximum. But if this was truly normal, then Naruto would be no least than 2 years older than the genin he is partnered with. Yet it's confirmed he's younger than them both, same with others dubbed the Rookie 12 by those that know the genin. How is this a sign of ill treatment? Sum asked. Simple. The mere fact that Naruto took the graduation exam more than once yet is still the same general age as those that were in the same class he did graduate in proves one thing. Someone allowed Naruto to take the graduation test early, and more than once. This wouldn't be a problem if Naruto was an exceptional student, but that was not the case. And I doubt any teacher would let him take it if he just asked without allowing others in the class the same offer, which I have reports saying did not happen. Logically, the only explanation is that someone in the academy was trying to get him expelled from the system permanently and make it be Naruto's own fault. No one could argue that point. With Mizuki's actions known to them all, it wasn't hard to imagine others in the academy, minus Iruka given his bond with Naruto, had tried their own methods to sabotage Naruto. Besides, once it was actually said, it was hard to imagine Naruto being allowed to take the test more than once when he was the same age as the other rookies. If it had been truly fair, he'd have to be older than Neji. While a good point, this is hardly proof of mistreatment. Koharu stated. Kikyo leafed through the papers. Kept away from Uzumaki property and forced to live in a substandard apartment. Put on a team based purely on grades rather than talents or potential. With a sensei known to be late to everything and 2 teammates who have little to no concern about his well-being. Kept ignorant of clan heritage and identity of parents. Not allowed in several public establishments under pretense of managers' rights to refuse service up until the time of the last Chunin exams which he was allowed to participate in after only one true mission which he was ill prepared for and without training that went beyond tree walking. And his legal godfather hasn't even bothered to see him until a month ago and who is currently keeping the fact he is Naruto's godfather a secret from him. I could go on until the next 3 counting the list of examples if you insist. We admit that he has not gotten the most preferential treatment, but you cannot ignore the fact he is a Jinchuriki. Homura claimed. If we were to treat him better than anyone else, it might go to his head. Why didn't you consider that when you treated Sasuke better than anyone else? Ray asked. Pardon, Homura asked. When you think about it, Sasuke's treatment is the exact opposite of what Kikyo said about Naruto. Allowed to live on his clan's property, placed on a team specifically suited to his needs above others, allowed into any establishment with owners giving him discounts not given to others, and not only that, allowed to be late to the final rounds of the Chunin exams, something that would not have been considered had it been someone else late. Again, if treating someone better than others goes to their head, what's your excuse for that? For starters, Sasuke lost his entire clan in front of him at a young age. He needed something to help keep his spirits up. Koharu claimed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Naruto lost his family at an even younger age, the day he was born. By your logic he would also need to keep his spirits up. Jun pointed out. Indeed. He needed a reason to be loyal to this village, and right now, I wouldn't be surprised if the only reason he felt loyalty was out of not love but obligation. Kikyo declared. Why would that matter? Danzo asked. Kikyo gave the bandaged warhawk a flat look. Love has an affect on an Uzumaki, and even our few remaining relatives in the Senju clan here in Konoha to a lesser extent, that you couldn't possibly understand. An Uzumaki motivated by love is on par with an Uchiha motivated by grief, while the effect that grief would has on us would be no different from a normal person. If Sasuke was anything to go by, that was quite a comparison. That does not matter, for he loves the village. Danzo reminded them. Does he? Does he really? Mia asked. Of course, he goes on and on about how he wants to become Hokage someday. Kaharu said, and everyone in the room nodded. That must mean he loves the village. That only means he wants to be in charge. It does not mean he loves Konoha. Mia clarified. Who would want to be in charge of a village they didn't love? Shikaku asked. Someone who doesn't know what he's fighting for. Tell me, if Naruto knew what you were keeping from him, would he still have faith in this village? Kikyo asked. He will learn when he is ready. Danzo told them. And when is that? Excuse me, when will he be ready? Kikyo repeated. What standard must he meet before no more secrets will be kept from him? With all due respect, and while I don't want to sound like I agree with Danzo, that is Konoha business. Tsunade told the redhead woman, with her open attack on Danzo going relatively unnoticed by the council as she would say something along similar lines at every meeting. Very well, but we are still adamant in our claim. We have decided that it is time for Uzumaki Naruto to come to Uzushio and be placed under our care, and we are here to take him to Uzushio as per the first condition of our agreement with the Sandaime Hokage. You can make this much easier on yourselves by not interfering with this. Well, you came here for nothing, for you can't have him. Danzo interjected. Kikyo gave him another flat look. Perhaps your ears are as damaged as the right side of your entire body. I did not say we are here to negotiate terms like we did, against our better judgment, the last time we came here. We will not compromise this time around. We are taking him with us like we should have done that day, whether or not you give us your approval. What kind of nonsense is this? One of the civilians said loudly. You say that we've not taken proper care of Uzumaki Naruto, but, despite knowing of the boy for about 7 years up to this point, you have done absolutely nothing for him in that time. And you think you can just up and take him from this village just because you share the same name. You want the boy to trust you, but yet you keep holding things over his head like it's leverage. That is bound to backfire someday. Not like it matters, as this is Naruto's last day as a shinobi of Konoha. That is our final word on this matter as Uzumaki Naruto's fellow clansman, no ifs, ands, or buts. Kikyo remarked. And what makes you think you can do more for him than Konoha can and has? Hiyashi questioned, the Hyuga clan head being among those trying to defuse the heated standoff but not wanting to give in to the envoy's demands, as he and the other shinobi saw them. There is a reason our clan is feared by our enemies. With us, he will be in no different of a situation than the one he's in now in that regard, and at least we can raise him the way Kushina and her husband would have wanted. Mia answered. Being feared is not necessarily a good thing. Tsunade pointed out. Only if that fear comes back to haunt you, something that will not happen to him in Uzushio. Do you have reason to believe that he won't be better off with us? Kikyo countered. That is a moot point. Naruto belongs here in Konoha. This is his home, everyone he knows and cares about is here, and it was his father's wish that he protect Konoha. Tsunade told them, trying to think of Naruto's best interests instead of just playing a game of tug-of-war with another village and him as the rope. Before this conversation escalates into anything worse than that, I think I know how this can be settled in a very easy way. Mia spoke up, causing everyone in the room listen in. Let's have Naruto himself decide what he wants, after he's heard what both villages can offer. The council discussed this suggestion amongst themselves while Shizune, Tsunade's assistant who was watching the proceedings by her master's side, approached her longtime master. I think maybe we should follow Mia Dono's advice. If anything, he should be the one to decide what he's going to do, and it's unlikely he'll choose to leave anyway. Shizune suggested, to which Tsunade sighed. Very well, then. We'll let Naruto be the one who makes the final decision. Tsunade declared even as she got the sinking feeling that this was not going to end well. While people had been talking about Naruto, when evening came he got another visitor. His teammate Sakura walked in, making him smile. "Hi Sakura-chan." The pinkett failed to return the expression. Instead, her face was contorted into one of shock and fear. She looked at Naruto as if he was somehow Gaara instead. "Naruto, what happened to you? Who did this to you?" "Oh, this is nothing to worry about." Sakura frowned. "Then why are you in a hospital?" "No idea, I woke up here. But I'm fine," he insisted. Naturally Sakura was not convinced. "Naruto, who hurt you?" Sakura pressed. "A little bit of this came from Orochimaru's goons, but it was mainly Sasuke when I had to fight him," he carefully admitted, knowing that saying stuff about Sasuke around her was like walking into a minefield. Sakura gasped and covered her mouth. "He did this to you?" she asked in disbelief. When she asked Naruto to bring Sasuke back, she knew a fight was inevitable and it might go badly, but thinking about it and actually hearing it that happened are two different things, especially when the results were even worse than she had imagined. "But why would he do that?" "I'm not sure, but if you ask Hinata, she would say that he was really trying to kill me," Naruto told her. "She said that?" Sakura asked. Naruto nodded. "Yeah, look, I don't want to believe that Sasuke would really go that far just as much as you, Sakura-chan, but after what Hinata said to me, what if she's right? What if Sasuke really was trying to kill me? I don't know, but I'm going to ask him myself later," Sakura said firmly, with a look that said for once she wasn't going to listen with her fangirl filter on. After a moment her face softened and she looked at Naruto with what he could only assume was regret. "I'm sorry I made you go through all that, Naruto." "Hey, don't blame yourself for this," he said. "It wasn't like the mission came from you, it was Ba-chan's orders. Besides, I would have brought him back even if you didn't ask me to do it. Remember what Kakashi-sensei said about abandoning friends?" Sakura nodded. "Yeah, but I think Sasuke-kun might need a reminder. Anyway, irregardless of what Sasuke was trying to do, when I'm out of here I'll make sure it never happens again." "Believe it." Sakura smiled and chuckled, for once comforted by his irritating catchphrase. "Thank you, Naruto." She then turned away. "Where you going?" he asked. Sakura turned only halfway back to him, allowing him to only see half of her face. "To give a reminder." Hospital hallway, Konoha. Moments later, her training done, Hinata was on her way back to her favorite blonde. "He's bound to still be confused on what to think regarding me. I need to help him, and I can do that by spending time with him and letting him get to know the real me more. Then, maybe he will like me more than Sakura. Even if he still likes her, though, I won't leave his side, no matter what." And speaking of the devil, Hinata actually saw Sakura walking down the hall towards her, making both girls stop and look at each other for a brief moment before walking up to each other. "Hi Hinata, let me guess, you're here for Naruto?" "Yes, and you're here for Sasuke-san?" Hinata asked with a noticeable frown. Sakura raised an eyebrow, since this was rather strange for the Hyuga heiress. "Yes," she answered awkwardly, as if not sure she should have said that as she realized something was definitely different about Hinata. "Figures as much. Bet you haven't even thought of seeing Naruto-kun yet," Hinata accused. Sakura frowned. "I have so. In fact, I was just there talking to him. Ask him yourself if you don't believe me." "Believe me, I will," Hinata said, only to see Sakura grin. "What's so funny?" "Nothing really, but hearing you say, 'believe me,' really reminded me of Naruto right then. And I'm impressed you're finally showing a little backbone regarding fighting for your man. Good for you, Hinata." Apparently Sakura was very quick to accept and adapt to Hinata's change in personality. "Well, someone should let Naruto-kun know how important he is," Hinata added, trying to sound modest. Important in general, or important to you? Sakura asked curiously. Hinata fidgeted a bit. Even after her confession, there are some things about Hinata that remained unchanged. More the last one if I had to answer it. I take that means you finally confessed to him. Well, I'm happy for you. Did he say yes? Are you two a couple now? Sakura asked, a bit excited by the idea that a new couple might be forming here. Hinata frowned. Why? Excited to think he won't get in the way of you and Sasuke-san now. Sakura jerked back while frantically waving her hands nervously. What? No. Honestly, that didn't even cross my mind. Seriously, Hinata, can't I honestly be happy for you? You never cared about it before. Why now? Sakura, having stopped her frantic waving, put her hands on her hips. You might find this hard to believe, Hinata, but personally, I always hoped you would find the courage in you to stand up for Naruto and make your claim. Seriously, I'm happy for you that now you can, and if he said yes, then I'm even happier for you. This has nothing to do with me, so I'm not making it about me. Good. So, don't keep me in suspense. Did you really tell him? What did he say? Sakura repeated. I told him everything, I held nothing back. And it actually felt good now that I finally did it. As for Naruto-kun, he's confused, but I expected him to be. So I didn't tell him he had to give me an answer right away. That was probably the smartest thing you could have done there. Sakura mused. In hindsight, maybe I should have done the same with Sasuke-kun. It's a shame everyone was so competitive with him that it was kind of hard not trying to grab him first and right away. She then shrugged. Oh well, I need to go see him about something, so I won't keep you from your man Hinata. You're going to see Sasuke-san? Hinata asked, an almost imperceptible frown on her face. I think I'd like to go with you. Sakura sure did not see that coming. Huh, you do? But why? I have a few things I want to say to him. Things Naruto-kun won't say. Considering how banged up Naruto looked, and how Sasuke-kun is the one responsible for it, I can't honestly fault her for sticking up for her crush. The Pinkett told herself. Though this is a side to Hinata that I've never seen before. How do I know she's not going to try and actually hurt Sasuke-kun? I'll see if I can let you come with me, but if you can, understand that I won't hesitate to stop you if you try to hurt Sasuke-kun. Sakura said, thinking this was the best way to get her answer. Hinata nodded in understanding, and the two girls proceeded to a different section of the hospital. By the way, Hinata, if you don't mind my asking, what made you decide now was the time to make your stand for Naruto? He almost died this time. Hinata said, sounding like she was about to cry a bit. Sakura put a hand on her shoulder in an attempt to console her. It's okay, Hinata, regardless of what happened, he's still alive, and now you have your chance to be with him. Trust me, you don't want to miss the opportunity when it comes. She recalled her offer to Sasuke when he was leaving Konoha, and even though she knew when she made the offer to go with him that it was wrong, it was a chance she couldn't pass up. To her, Sasuke was worth fighting for, like how Naruto was to Hinata. It wasn't her smartest idea, but even now she didn't regret having it. I won't. I've known for years I needed to do something, and since graduation I've known that more. I guess I just thought I had more time, and here I was proven wrong. Naruto-kun's strong, but he's not invincible. No more than I am. I can't wait to become brave enough to be with him, seeing that he needs someone now. Good for you, Sakura said. Nothing more was said until they got to the room, guarded by an Anbu. Sakura took out a written pass and photo ID to let them know she could enter. I'm afraid she can't go in. The Anbu said, referring to Hinata. I'll take responsibility for anything she does. Sakura said. The Anbu didn't look like he knew what to decide. Be quick, he said after a moment, unlocking the door. Elsewhere. As Sakura and Hinata prepared to confront Sasuke, a group of mysterious figures were meeting in an undisclosed room somewhere in Konoha to meet with another mysterious figure who stood before them speaking. After giving the people a series of orders, the mystery person finished their apparent briefing. You know your objective, you know your target, you know what to do if any obstacles show up. Get to work, and do not disappoint me. The figure said to the group of shadowy figures who nodded in understanding before vanishing. These people, even as they headed towards their objective, were unaware of the chain events they would help spark. Prison Wing, Konoha Hospital. In a secluded and heavily guarded room, complete with metal bars on the window, another patient was waking up. As he did, he noticed one thing above all else: being awake was painful. Damn, it still hurts to stay awake even after 3 days. Maybe Shikamaru is onto something after all with his desire to always sleep. I'll give the Dobi credit, he's a worthy rival for me, somehow. He told himself, opening his eyes and seeing gray painted walls everywhere and a small barred window on one of them providing some light but not real view outside. Taking my 2 best attacks would have killed even a normal Uchiha, but he still stood and defeated me. I actually kind of hope he's still alive, it'd be a shame to lose such a worthy challenge now. The patient was none other than Uchiha Sasuke, who was currently recovering from his injuries after Naruto defeated the last Uchiha and stopped him from defecting to Orochimaru. As Sasuke tried to avoid losing consciousness, he heard the door to his room open and heard an all too familiar voice. Good, you're awake. Sasuke looked to his left despite the ache in his neck. Standing by the door was Haruno Sakura, arms folded, and Hyuga Hinata, hands on her hips, elbows pointing out. Sakura looked like she was genuinely disappointed in Sasuke, a rather strange look for her, and Hinata looked offended and not even trying to hide it. What do you want? Sasuke asked, his tone naturally apathetic. For starters, you locked away for a long time after I destroy your chakra system so you can never be a ninja again. Hinata hissed. Sasuke blinked in surprise at this, since even the relative socially challenged Uchiha knew enough about the Hyuga heiress to know that she was as meek as a mouse by reputation. While Sasuke wasn't as concerned with Hinata attacking him, Sakura thought very differently. Hinata, don't do something that will get you in trouble. Sakura warned. The white-eyed girl nodded, and the pinkett looked to the last Uchiha. Sasuke-kun, we have to make this visit short, so I'm just going to ask a single question. Is that okay? He nodded. Did you really try to kill Naruto when you saw him? Sasuke did not answer right away, but when he did, there was no hesitation. Yes, I did. How could you? What were you thinking? Sakura asked. Sakura, you said you would only ask a single question. That means no follow-ups. Sasuke reminded her. Then I'll ask a couple for her. Hinata cut in. What were you thinking, Uchiha? You've never been deprived anything in this village. What made you decide all of a sudden this place wasn't good enough for you anymore? How could you be so selfish as to leave? For that matter, why did you want to kill Naruto-kun? What did he ever do to you? Her questions caught Sasuke off guard, and if he was being honest, they made him feel like a. Are you sure you want the answer to that? You're not going to like it. I probably won't, but I'm asking for the truth, not happiness. Hinata stated. Sasuke looked at the ceiling. You can't understand, no one can. My brother killed my entire clan. I need to kill him, no matter what. I need to do whatever it takes to get strong enough to do that. At least that's what I was thinking at that moment. And how does that justify killing Naruto-kun? Hinata added. For one, he was trying to stop me from going to Orochimaru. At that time I thought going to Orochimaru would be the best way to get the power I needed as quickly as possible, and since Naruto was getting in my way, killing him would at least let me go on unhindered. And there's another why I tried to kill him, the reason why I asked you if you were sure you wanted to know. Itachi has a more powerful Sharingan than my own, the Mangekyo Sharingan, Any Uchiha strong enough can acquire that power, but to do requires doing something very dark. I tried to get it by killing Naruto. He replied, taking that moment to look back to them. In order to get the Mangekyo, an Uchiha has to kill the one they call their best friend. I'm sure you can connect the dots there. Hinata and Sakura both gasped. For Hinata, the fact he would be willing to kill Naruto just to one-up his own brother was horrendous, no different than if Neji had killed Hanabi just to mess with her back during his fate mindset. For Sakura, the idea of betraying your best friend for personal gain hit a sore spot with her. The scale between what she did with Ino and what Sasuke did to Naruto were different, but in principle the same thing, but even then neither Sakura or Ino would have gone as far as what Sasuke tried to do. Hinata clenched her fist. How? Get stronger eyes, by killing your best friend. What kind of sick person are you to even consider this course of action? If you were me, wouldn't you at least consider it? Sasuke tested. No. If the thought of killing your best friend for power doesn't break your heart, if to you that's a price worth paying, then you have no right to call that person a friend of any kind. You want to kill your brother. That's your business, not Naruto-kun's. You have no right to make him spill blood for you in your quest for someone else's blood. Sasuke closed his eyes, an earlier discussion coming back to him thanks to her. You might be right. Someone told me that a couple of days ago. After hearing what they had to say, let's just say that they did a good job making me question my choices in life. Oh yeah, what did they say? Hinata asked, to which Sasuke sighed before answering. Right. You better sit down for this. You're gonna need it with what I'm going to tell you. He warned. Flashback. 2 days earlier. The first day after being brought back, Sasuke, who had woken up not too long after his forced return to Konoha, was stewing in his hospital bed. Damn it, why am I so weak? I should be better than this, better than the Dobi. How is it I've made no progress since the academy? Even Orochimaru's curse mark wasn't enough for me to even beat that Dobi. You comfy, kid? An unknown voice asked. Confused, Sasuke looked to the window, where he saw a man he had never seen before seated on the rail, as if he came in from outside. You better be, since you're not going anywhere for a while. Who the hell are you? I'm Jiraiya, the only Sannin you're probably unfamiliar with. Orochimaru and Tsunade weren't the only ones you know. You and I met before, back when you tried to kill your brother. Smooth move by the way, fighting an S-rank missing nin who was made an Anbu when he was only 13. That was a big mistake, kid. Excuse me, Sasuke replied. This bastard thinks I'm not good enough to kill Itachi. You heard me, big mistake. For one thing, your brother was barely even paying attention to you. He was giving you a perfect opportunity to catch him off guard, and what did you do? You announced yourself to the world and charged in right in his face. You didn't even try being stealthy. To say nothing of the fact that that opening would have done you no good in the end. Shut up. I need to kill him. The young Uchiha claimed. And you had the perfect chance, which you ruined. Not me, not Naruto, you. You could have gotten him in his blind spot with a silent strike and been done with it, but no, you stood right where he could see you, waited until he acknowledged your presence, and attacked with a loud and bright move that was clearly easy for a Sharingan to predict and counter. Why? It's like you wanted him to kill you instead. Just be glad I was there to get you and Naruto away from harm before Itachi did more damage. What right did you have to stop me from getting my revenge? Sasuke asked, feeling cheated now because of this old man. You were outmatched and going to get yourself killed. Did you want me to let you get killed? Jiraiya asked back. What makes you think I would have died? Jiraiya rolled his eyes. Gee, I don't know. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that Itachi has the power to kill people and he's not afraid to use it. I think you of all people know how strong he is. Sasuke grimaced, unable to refute that. He showed mercy to you once, but that doesn't mean he'd do it again. I don't know what you've been building up Itachi to be in your head, boy, but he's certainly not going to hand you the opportunity to kill him. You had the perfect chance, and you nearly died because your vanity overpowered your objectivity. Whatever. Unless you're here just to be a critic, why are here? Sasuke asked, not impressed with his visitor, just confused. Just paying a visit, and to say some things you need to hear before you make another big mistake again. Like this failed escapade of yours to join Orochimaru. Are you out of your mind? Seriously, kid, what made you say, going to a missing nin for guidance is a great idea? Shut up. I told you, I need to kill Itachi. Why? You're not in any immediate danger from him. He's not waiting to come back and finish you off. What's the hurry? He needs to die. He killed my entire family. And they'll still be dead when you kill him. It doesn't matter if you kill him today, tomorrow, or 10 years from now, or even never, they'll be just as dead as they were yesterday, you know. Killing him won't bring them back. Jiraiya stated. Sasuke looked away. You couldn't possibly understand. How could you know what I've been through? I don't, but that's besides the point. If you listen to others, someone might be able to understand. The only reason no one understands you is because you won't let anyone else try, kid. You might be surprised, but you're not the only orphan in the world. For crying out loud, Naruto alone should have clued you into that. Sasuke huffed, but it sounded hollow. So what? The Dobi couldn't possibly relate to me. He never had a family to begin with. Sasuke barely finished that sentence when he sensed a rise in Jiraiya's chakra as the Sannin clenched his fist. This took Sasuke by surprise. Why did this guy take so much apparent offense to what he just said? Deciding to not push things any further, Sasuke decided to listen to what the Sannin was going to say before saying something that might end up killing him. After he calmed down, Jiraiya looked at Sasuke with a stern look in his eyes. For an Uchiha with a Sharingan, you act like you might as well be blind. Can you even see how much of a hypocrite you're being right now? Jiraiya asked. Sasuke then turned to the Toad Sage. What? You're being a hypocrite. You're going on and on about how much you've suffered and how bad you have it, yet as soon as someone else has a sob story, you berate the whole thing. You act as if you're the only person in the history of the world who ever actually had a legitimate reason to be unhappy, and everyone else is just overreacting. Sasuke had a brief memory of Inari back in Wave, and for a moment thought that Jiraiya was comparing him to the whiny boy before he recalled a certain conversation said boy had with Kakashi regarding Naruto. Well, if Naruto really does have it bad, prove it. What's he got to be miserable about? Jiraiya repositioned himself to get more comfortable. Where should I start? Well, since you brought up your family, I'll talk about his. Naruto's never had any, not a name or a face to call a relative. All he has is a complete blank. While you may dismiss that as something he should be grateful for, consider how you'd feel if the family you wanted to avenge was a complete mystery to you. If you didn't know a single thing about your mother or father or anyone else. Imagine if you didn't even know if they wanted you, let alone loved you. You boy, you have memories, but Naruto can barely even have dreams. It's like the old saying goes, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have never loved at all. Guess which one applies to Naruto? For the first time, Sasuke actually thought carefully about that. He had never really thought about Naruto's status as an orphan that way before. To him, never having a family to begin with was essentially saying you never had anything to lose. He had never considered that maybe having nothing but questions was worse than having nothing but memories, and, after hearing what Jiraiya had to say, he realized that maybe not having anything to lose might not be the blessing in disguise he thought it was. He could never have imagined what else Jiraiya was going to reveal about Naruto's life, however, as the Sannin continued talking to him. Naruto had no family to call his own, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of what he had to go through. You may know the loneliness of not having a family to go home to, Sasuke, and I can understand how painful that alone might be. Jiraiya continued. But let's forget about the origin of that loneliness for a bit, and think more about the life it results it. Imagine for a moment if you had been alone not from when you were 7 but from the day you were born. Then imagine that you're not only lonely at home but that you were forced to be lonely in town as well. Imagine if people didn't care about your clan, your family, or you. Imagine if those people even went as far as to think that you should have died like the rest of them, and they won't even tell you why. Imagine if in school the teachers refused to have anything to do with you, and instead of wanting you to do your best, tried to make you do your worst. Imagine all the kids you know being told to avoid you, to treat you like some kind of plague, and even when they had to interact with you they did so in a way that only served to not just make you feel just lonely but unwelcome as well. Imagine if some people even wanted you gone so badly that you have to live your life with the constant threat of an angry villager or shinobi trying to kill you and that this threat was present every day of your life. Imagine this, all of this, was the only life you ever knew. Sasuke was silent, stunned by the scenario. Even the last Uchiha had some morality left in him, and to hear that such a thing was possible almost made him sick. To force such a hellish life like that on a child, regardless of who they might be, was beyond criminal, it was inhuman, something that would probably piss even Sasuke off. Now imagine that this happened to Naruto. Jiraiya said, throwing him off. Would you still say he has nothing to be miserable about? Sasuke wasn't considered a genius for nothing. He was to figure out what Jiraiya was trying to tell him. Are you say all that did happen to him? Yep. All of that and much, much worse, and he had to live this life from day one. But if that's true, then how can he act so happy and carefree like it's nothing? Sasuke asked, not seeing how somebody living in misery could resist sulking in it. While Sasuke wasn't an expert on emotions, he believed that if you were in a bad mood you were supposed to show it, not pretend otherwise. Because sulking won't change anything. In fact, sulking would only let the Itachi of his life win and destroy him. Jiraiya answered. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. There is someone in his life like Itachi. You didn't think Naruto's family never existed, right? The Sannin asked back. Someone had to get rid of all of Naruto's family, leaving him without anyone to care for him. At that, Jiraiya paused, and Sasuke noticed what he could only guess was remorse. You know who it is, don't you? And you haven't told the Dobi yet. Why is that? As it stands, there's no point in me telling him. Naruto already knows and already knows that I know who it is as well. Jiraiya told him. He does. He knows who is responsible for his loneliness. And he's not fixated on getting revenge. Sasuke asked. No, because revenge won't solve the problem. Hurting the cause of his loneliness won't make that feeling of loneliness go away, no more than killing your brother will make your family come back. Naruto doesn't want revenge. All he wants friends, acceptance, bonds with other people so that he doesn't have to be lonely anymore. Love is the only thing he wants. Revenge is the last thing on Naruto's mind. And even if he did want revenge, the target in question is in a place where Naruto can't ever hurt it, so it would be a pointless desire. Sasuke didn't like the way the Toad Sage phrased that. To him it was clear Jiraiya was trying to avoid giving any specific details. And why is that? Jiraiya continued looking at him firmly. You really want to know? I asked you, didn't I? Alright, the reason why is because the great cause of Naruto's misery and loneliness is inside him. He can't hurt it any more than you could hurt a tapeworm inside yourself. Inside him, Sasuke repeated. Like what? A multiple personality thing? No, it's nothing like that. The Sannin said with a sigh. Understand that what I am about to tell you is classified and cannot be repeated to others. When the Kyuubi attacked Konoha 13 years ago, the Yondaime wasn't able to truly get rid of it, so he has no choice but to seal it away inside of Naruto on the day he was born. Naruto is basically a living, breathing cage for the fox. Before it was locked up, however, the Kyuubi managed to kill his entire family when they sacrificed themselves to protect him. Sasuke temporarily forgot how to breathe. He has that monster in him. That would explain what that chakra cloak thing he used in out battle. It was a manifestation of the fox's power. Remembering the story of the Yondaime defeating the Kyuubi, Sasuke realized that Naruto had this burden forced onto him. Naruto was a couple months younger than him after all, and Sasuke had been told he wasn't even weaned when that night happened. Naruto could very well have been holding the fox since the very hour he was born, which meant some important things Sasuke was now starting to understand. There was definitely some validity to Jiraiya's claim of Naruto's life, but it still made little sense. Why would people do that to Naruto and Naruto alone? Did the village know about his connection to the fox? If not, what other reason would they have to mistreat Naruto? And if so, then why would they mistreat him for that in the first place? Sasuke admitted Naruto had never been his favorite person, but that was simply because Naruto annoyed him. He couldn't speak for others, but he was certain the entire village couldn't use that as an excuse. How could one child annoy the entire town to the point that they would make his life a living hell? Didn't the adults have anything better to do than make him feel unwanted? No, the only conclusion that made sense to the Uchiha was that the older generation knew about Naruto, didn't like his connection to the fox, and tried to keep the uninformed younger generation uninformed but make them follow their example. Despicable. How can people treat someone like crap for something that's not even their own fault? To think that the Dobi has had almost the entire village as an enemy since the day he was born. And he had to fight to ensure his spirit remained unbroken after 13 years of social neglect and the obvious occasion act of violence. He's definitely stronger than I gave him credit for. I thought I had it rough, but compared to the Dobi, I actually got off lucky by comparison. I called Naruto naive when I left Konoha, but I guess I was the one who was blind to the truth. It changes a lot, knowing this. Doesn't it, kid? Jiraiya asked. Sasuke looked back to him. I have to ask, if everything you said is true, then why are people doing it and getting away with it? I mean, is the fox really their only motive? Don't they trust the Hokage? People tend to overreact when they're scared. Overreact. Overreact, Sasuke repeated, finding himself offended by that word usage in this context. That is not overreacting. What Naruto had to go though. I can't even think of a word to describe what I think of it. No one should live like that, and I cannot believe the words that are coming out of my mouth, but that's a fate I wouldn't even wish on my own brother. Jiraiya showed some surprise. Considering what I hear you say about him, I'm genuinely surprised. I'm not defending the people, but you asked why they did what they did. The only way to get your answer is to try and understand how they think. It doesn't mean you have to agree with it or anything. You're getting off topic, old man. Sasuke warned. What exactly are people afraid of regarding Naruto? Even if the fox was as bad as everyone says it was, it doesn't make any sense. Any idiot with at least one brain cell could see he's not being controlled by the fox. You're right. Any idiot can see that, unless they think he is the fox in human form. Jiraiya pointed out. In human form. So they believe the Yondaime wasn't strong enough to kill the fox but strong enough to transform it into a human. That doesn't even begin to explain why the fox wouldn't have just tried to destroy Konoha in human form. Sasuke asked. And after all this time and after everything Naruto has done, they still don't want to give him the benefit of the doubt.